Venus square Chiron, strange fruit. This video has been sponsored by Kawaii Honey. Thank you, Kawaii, for sponsoring another video. You are really keeping me busy and productive, and I love it. So thank you once again. So Kawaii wants to know, so you say you have this aspect in your chart. You have Venus in Virgo squaring Chiron in Gemini. Your Venus is in the 11th house, Chiron in the 8th. And you said you believe this aspect deals with a wound around your self-esteem and self-worth. So you wanted to get some insight into this aspect in terms of how it can play out in your life, as well as what celebrities have this aspect in their charts as well. All right, so first I'm going to get into Venus square Chiron in terms of the general manifestations of this square. And then I'll get into your square in particular, followed by some information on celebrities that have this square. Venus square Chiron. So you're right. This square can manifest as wounds to one's self-esteem. It can result in being offended or insulted by people. This square can produce an abnormality or deformity of the body ruled by Venus, or the effects that a disorder represented by Chiron in a particular sign has upon one's Venus. Also, a wound to an area of the body ruled by Venus. Problems with a doctor could produce conflicts with food, appetite, processed foods, or foods that have artificial ingredients. Also, Venus square Chiron can make one uncompromising, uncooperative, disagreeable. Discord is a possible manifestation. Also, shocking, appalling situations. Love comes with a catch-22 situation. Tainted love, loving someone who is not fully available to you. Hurting, harming, or maiming people. An abnormal relationship. A partner who commits egregious offenses. Challenges with maintaining harmony. Challenges with women. And this could even be in the form of a woman's stunning beauty, making other women jealous or uncomfortable. Social faux pas, lacking decency or social grace. Interruptions in income, financial instability, fines, liens, levies, penalties, coming up short, difficulty with being satisfied with what you have, buying items that come broken, defective, damaged, or that are poor quality. So let's get into this square in particular, the one that you have, Venus in Virgo square Chiron in Gemini. So first I'll talk about how it can manifest in general terms, but then I'll get into yours in particular. So this square can produce challenges with writing, speech, enunciation, diction, grammar. Basically, it brings a need to proofread everything that you write before sending. Possibility of a learning disability. Challenge with school or fitting in with one's peers. Could stumble over words due to editing thoughts while speaking. Harsh criticism, and this could be due to what you say or how you say it. Health condition of the area of the body ruled by Gemini. That could include lungs, sinuses, arms, hands, eyes. Lacking consistency in a relationship. An inattentive partner or spouse. Problems with siblings. A sibling may not be fully integrated in your life. A sibling or relative could trigger insecurities. Problems on the job, especially in terms of following protocol or directions, punctuality and communication. A fluctuating schedule. Unstable income. Incidentals. Mental anguish over money. Challenges with sticking to a budget due to buying things on a whim. Fickle taste. Hard to stick to a diet or fitness routine. High anxiety. A nervous stomach, butterflies. Digestive issues. Could produce a spastic colon in some cases. Lacking concern for the well-being of others. Having a devil-may-care attitude that can result in a lack of manners and etiquette. So here's some possible manifestations of your square in particular. So your square involves the 8th house because Chiron's in the 8th, the 11th, with Venus in the 11th. but also the 7th and the 12th because Venus rules these two houses. So this square can produce an anxiety disorder that could result in a panic attack due to the 8th house placement of Chiron. Also, you could attract partners who lack financial security and a stable income, attracting partners who will try to monitor your phone usage and activity on social media, not being fully integrated in a partner's life, attracting partners who get into serious car accidents. This could even play out as the death of a partner or spouse via car accident. Attracting partners who will criticize and correct your manner of speaking. Also, this puts you at risk for being audited by the IRS. A partner could be insecure over your intelligence. Being wounded by a partner. So this square is akin to being strong-armed. So you could be in an argument with a partner at some point, and you might be trying to walk away and they grab you by the arm because they don't want you to walk away. They want to continue to argue with you. And next thing you know, you got bruises on your arm. You may have to have a difficult conversation about a partner's hygiene at some point. A partner could have serious mental health issues, high anxiety, could attract a partner with an injury, scar on arm or hand. There could be an issue with their finger or fingers. Could go back and forth between being vegan and an omnivore. Can produce an erratic digestive system, irregularity. Challenges with letting go during sex. Basically, you could be too much in your head. Could contract a reoccurring infection that can be triggered by stress or a poor diet. Could be a dispute between number of hours worked and the amount of pay at some point. Also, not feeling loved or accepted by a sibling. Having a fair weather or two-faced friend. Challenges with seeing goals through to completion due to distractions and having second thoughts. So let's get into some celebrities that have the same aspect as you. Venus in Virgo, square Chiron in Gemini. So we're going to start with Mila Kunis. So she has Venus in Virgo in the 9th house, squaring Chiron in Gemini in the 6th. So on her second day in Los Angeles, Kunis was enrolled at Rosewood Elementary School, not knowing a word of English. She later recalled, "I blocked out 2nd grade completely. I have no recollection of it. I always talked to my mom and my grandma about it. It was because I cry every day. I didn't understand the culture. I didn't understand the people." Basically, she's referring to when she relocated from the Ukraine to the United States as a child. "I didn't understand the language. My first sentence of my essay to get into college was like, imagine being blind and deaf at age 7. And that's kind of what it felt like moving to the States." So Venus squared Chiron can produce issues with fitting in with your peers or being integrated into a new school. So she definitely experienced that. Venus squared Chiron, especially with Chiron being in the 6th. The Gemini is representing the school, 6th house integration, and that Venus in the 9th is showing that she's coming from a foreign country. In Los Angeles, she attended Hubert Howe Bancroft Middle School. She used an on-set tutor for most of her high school years while filming That 70s Show. She briefly attended Los Angeles Center for Enriched Studies, but when that school proved to be insufficiently flexible about her acting commitments, she transferred to Fairfax High School, graduating in 2001. So this square is also representing the conflict between school and work. In 1999, Kunis replaced Lacey Chabert in the role of Meg Griffin on the animated sitcom Family Guy, created by Seth MacFarlane for Fox. Kunis won the role after auditions and a slight rewrite of the character, in part due to her performance on That 70s Show. When Kunis auditioned for the role, she was called back by MacFarlane, who instructed her to speak slower. He then told her to come back another time and enunciate more. Once she claimed that she had it under control, MacFarlane hired her. So her challenges with enunciation, speaking too quickly, her being criticized by McFarlane for it, is that Venus square Chiron. In January 2011, she revealed her struggle with chronic iritis that had caused temporary blindness in one eye. Some months earlier, she went through with the surgery that corrected the problem. Kunis also has heterochromia, iridome, a condition in which her irises are different colors. Her left eye is brown while her right eye is green. So that's that square as well. Kunis is a supporter of the Democratic Party. In a 2012 interview, she criticized the Republican Party, saying, "The way that Republicans attack women is so offensive to me, and the way they talk about religion is offensive. I may not be a practicing Jew, but why do we got to talk about Jesus all the time?" In 2017, Kunis disclosed that she had been making monthly donations to Planned Parenthood in Mike Pence's name. So I'm sure he was insulted by that, and that's one of the manifestations of Venus square Chiron, being offensive or insulting others, discord, disagreements. And that Venus in the ninth is pointing to her being critical of politicians, but also religion. Next, we have Sophia Loren. So she's from the old school in terms of Hollywood. And a lot of y'all may not know who she is, but she was always known as this stunning beauty. Italian actress. So she had Venus in Virgo in her 8th house, squaring Chiron and Gemini in the 5th. So Loren's father, Riccardo Ciccolone, I know I'm butchering that last name, refused to marry Villani. Villani was her mother, leaving the piano teacher an aspiring actress without financial support. Loren met with her father 3 times, at age 5, age 17, and in 1976 at his deathbed, stating that she forgave him but had never forgotten his abandonment of her mother. So her sporadic contact with her father is dealing with this square, Venus square Chiron. Venus is ruling her 4th house. 4th house is the father. Taurus is money. That's him not basically wanting to give up his money to support her and her mother. Loren's parents had another child together, her sister Maria, in 1938. Her father did not want to formally recognize Maria as his daughter. When Loren became successful, she paid her father in order to have her sister Maria take his last name. Loren has 2 younger paternal half-brothers, Giuliano and Giuseppe. So this square is also pointing to the situation with her siblings, especially her younger sister, and how her father was basically not trying to claim her like that. In 1960, Loren starred in Vittorio De Sica's 2 Women, a stark, gritty story of a mother who is trying to protect her 12-year-old daughter in war-torn Italy. The 2 end up gang raped inside a church as they travel back to their home city following cessation of bombings there. Originally cast as the daughter, Loren fought against type and was eventually cast as the mother. So being uncompromising, that's representing that. But even the storyline, that's that Venus in the 8th house in particular. She won 22 international awards. She has Saturn at the 22nd degree. That points to that. For 2 Women. The film was extremely well received by critics and a huge commercial success. Though proud of this accomplishment, Loren did not show up to this award, citing fear of fainting at the award ceremony. So remember I said Venus square Chiron. This one in particular can produce problems with anxiety. So that's being represented by this statement. Nevertheless, Cary Grant telephoned her in Rome the next day to inform her of the Oscar award. In 1982, while in Italy, she made headlines after serving an 18-day prison sentence on tax evasion charges. a fact that failed to hamper her popularity or career. In 2013, the Supreme Court of Italy cleared her of the charges. So with this, you have to take Neptune into account. So she has Venus conjoined to Neptune in the 8th, and that's the tax evasion, squaring Chiron in Gemini. And, that coming out in the media, I'm sure she felt some type of way about that. Although she was set to star in 13 episodes of CBS's Falcon Crest in 1984 as Angela Channing's half-sister Francesca Gioberti, negotiations fell through at the last moment, and the role went to Gina Lola Brigida instead. Loren preferred devoting more time to raising her sons. She played the title role in the 1984 TV movie Aurora, in which she acted alongside her 11-year-old real-life son, Eduardo Ponti. So the situation where she preferred to spend time raising her sons over taking that job, that's Venus square Chiron as well, with Chiron being in that 5th house. And also the acting gig with her son, that's also dealing with that square as well, because I'm sure that, it was difficult being, his co-star, but also having to be his mom at the same time. She revealed that fellow actor Richard Burton was furious with her for cheating at Scrabble. And that is where you take that Neptune into account. Venus conjunct Neptune squaring Chiron. That's basically her cheating at Scrabble. Loren first met Ponti, her first husband, in 1950, when she was 15 and he was 37. So remember I said Venus square Chiron can produce abnormal relationships. So that's certainly one due to the age difference. Though Ponti had been long separated from his first wife, Juliana, he was not legally divorced when Loren married him by proxy. The couple had their marriage annulled in 1962 to escape bigamy charges, but they continued to live together. So the complications with their marriage and the whole bigamy thing, that's very much Venus square Chiron as well. Loren remained married to Carlo Ponti until his death on January 10, 2007 from pulmonary complications. Pulmonary dealing with the lungs, and Venus square Chiron is representing that with Chiron and Gemini, dealing with the lungs, Venus representing her spouse, and especially with that 8th house dealing with death. Loren and Cary Grant co-starred in Houseboat. Grant's wife, Betsy Drake, wrote the original script, and Grant originally intended that she would star with him. After he began an affair with Loren while filming The Pride and the Passion, Grant arranged for Loren to take Drake's place with a rewritten script for which Drake asked to not receive credit. The affair ended in bitterness before The Pride and the Passion's filming ended, causing problems on the Houseboat set. And again, that's very much Venus conjoined to Neptune square Chiron. Grant hoped to resume the relationship, but Loren decided to marry Carlo Ponti instead. In September 1999, Loren filed a lawsuit against 79 adult websites for posting altered nude photos of her on the internet. So again, offenses, egregious offenses, Venus square Chiron. All right, so you see the thumbnail that I posted. That is of Sophia Loren, and she was pictured with Jane Mansfield. And you see where Sophia Loren is giving Jane Mansfield that side eye. And I always say Virgo is basically the masters of the side eye. So where her Venus in Virgo, she definitely had that side eye, and Sun in Virgo. So she was quoted as saying this because that picture became infamous. Paramount had organized a party for me. All of cinema was there. It was incredible. And then comes in Jane Mansfield, the last one to come. For me, that was when it got amazing. She came right for my table. She knew everyone was watching. She sat down. And now she was barely, listen, look at the picture. Where are my eyes? I'm staring at her nipples because I am afraid they are about to come onto my plate. In my face, you could see the fear. I'm so frightened that everything in her dress is going to blow, boom, and spill all over the table. Loren went on to explain that even though she was caught smiling or having a good time with Mansfield later in the evening, her mind was always on that dress. No, no. Well, there may be other photos, but this is the picture. This is the one that shows how it was. This is the only picture. She later said that she doesn't like being associated with that picture because it just is basically really negative. But that's very Venus square Chiron. In this case, she was looking at Jane Mansfield like her lacking social etiquette, social grace, decency, decorum. Diahann Carroll. So Diahann Carroll is another old school Hollywood actress who has Venus in Virgo square Chiron in Gemini. So Diahann Carroll's Venus is in the 7th house, intercepted in the 7th house, conjoined to Neptune, like Sophia Loren. So both Sophia Loren and Diahann Carroll have Venus conjoined in Neptune. And Diahann Carroll's Chiron in the 4th house. So this quote right here is very much dealing with Venus square Chiron, especially when you take into account that Chiron is in her 4th house. So while Carroll was still an infant, the family moved to Harlem, where she grew up, except for a brief period in which her parents had left her with an aunt in North Carolina. Now, I saw an interview with Diahann Carroll where she was talking about how deeply hurt and scarred she was about her parents just dropping her off at her aunt's and not telling her, not explaining to her why and when they would be back and all of that. Also, Carroll was married 4 times. So remember I said Venus square Chiron can produce challenges with relationships. It can produce a lack of harmony. Her father boycotted the ceremony for her first wedding. That makes a lot of sense with Chiron in the 4th house. 4th house is the father. In 1956 to record producer Monty Kaye, which was presided over by Adam Clayton Powell Jr. at the Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. The marriage ended in 1962. In 1959, Carroll began a 9-year affair with the married actor Sidney Poitier. In her autobiography, Carroll said Poitier persuaded her to divorce her husband and said he would leave his wife to be with her. While she proceeded with the divorce, Poitier did not keep his part of the bargain. Eventually, he divorced his wife. According to Poitier, their relationship ended because he wanted to live with Carroll for 6 months without her daughter present, so he would not be jumping from one marriage straight into another. She refused. So again, abnormal relationships, but also it shows where she was unwilling to compromise. Carroll dated and was engaged to British television host and producer David Frost from 1970 until 1973. In February 1973, Carroll surprised the press by marrying Las Vegas boutique owner Fred Glusman. After 4 months of marriage, Glusman filed for divorce in June 1973. Carroll filed a response but did not contest the divorce, which was finalized 2 months later. Glusman was reportedly physically abusive, so that's very Venus square Chiron. On May 25th, 1975, Carroll, then age 39, married Robert D. Leone, the 24-year-old managing editor of Jet magazine. They met when D. Leone assigned himself to a cover story on Carroll about her 1975 Oscar nomination for Claudine. So the age difference, that's very much Venus square Chiron. D. Leone had a child from a previous marriage. Carroll moved to Chicago, where Jet was headquartered, but D. Leone soon quit his job, so the couple relocated to Oakland. Carroll was widowed when D. Leone was killed in a car crash on March 31st, 1977. Carroll's 4th and final marriage was to singer Vic Damone in 1987. The union, which Carroll admitted was turbulent, had a legal separation in 1991, reconciliation and divorce in 1996. So her life story is very much reflective of that Venus square Chiron, especially in terms of her relationships, but also that situation where her parents dropped her off at her aunt's house when she was very young. Carroll was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1997. She said the diagnosis stunned her because there was no family history of breast cancer, and she had always led a healthy lifestyle. So Chiron in the fourth can produce disorders of the breast. And then with the Venus and Virgo, that's her being stunned. Venus and Virgo squaring Chiron, that's her being stunned because she always led a healthy lifestyle. So she frequently spoke of the need for early detection and prevention of the disease. Carroll also had dementia at the time of her death, though actor Mark Kopich, who played her character's son in Julia, said that she did not appear to show serious signs of cognitive decline as late as 2017. So that dementia, especially in terms of challenges with communicating, that's very much Venus square Chiron. All right, next we have William Friedkin. When I saw that William Friedkin had Venus square Chiron, like I tell you, when y'all be sponsoring these videos, y'all don't understand how much I enjoy this, because things will come up that I haven't considered. Like William Friedkin, y'all understand. He was the director of The Exorcist, and that is one of my favorite movies of all times. I was just rewatching The Exorcist this week. So, mind you, I was watching The Exorcist. Actually, I was watching it again last week, but I stretched it out into this week because I was also watching his commentary on The Exorcist and the filming process and all that. So when I started to look for celebrities that had Venus square Chiron, in particular Venus and Virgo square Chiron and Gemini, William Friedkin comes up. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, that makes so much sense, considering what people were saying about what was going on the set when he was directing The Exorcist. So this was such a treat, Kauai, doing this video for you, because William Friedkin is part of it. And again, The Exorcist is one of my favorite movies of all time. I even have a magnet on my refrigerator of The Exorcist. Of course, I have The Exorcist DVD. I read The Exorcist book that the movie was based on. So yeah, this was a treat. So here he is right here with a young Linda Blair, who played the child that was possessed by a demon. So Venus and Virgo square Chiron and Gemini, this alone can make a director very difficult. And with Venus and Virgo, of course, he has to get each scene perfect. So he had unstable marriages as well, which is very indicative of Venus square Chiron. So William Friedkin has been married 4 times. Jean Moreau. So he was only married to her for 2 years. Leslie Ann Dow, only married to her for 3 years. Kelly Lang, only married to her for 2 years. And then, well, actually 3 years. And then Sherry Lansing, he married in 1991. And I think I think he's dead now, but I think he stayed married to that one though. Now, crew also recalled that he was temperamental, often firing people without warning. So that's very Venus square Chiron. Blair and Burston suffered accidental long-term back injuries. He also deliberately made cast members uncomfortable, refrigerating the set where the exorcism scenes took place to temperatures well below 0 Fahrenheit to make their breath visible. Now, the way he explained that in his commentary on The Exorcist, he was saying back then, because this movie came out in 1973, so back then he was saying there was no special effects that could create the breath, the visible breath, due to a cold environment. So he had to make the room very, very cold. But I mean, he was very insensitive and rather brutal when it came to trying to get his actors to perform in a way or to get that perfect shot. Production took twice as long as scheduled and cost, almost 3 times the initial budget. Remember I said Venus square Chiron could produce challenges with sticking to a budget, especially with the Virgo? The many mishaps have led to a belief that the film was cursed. From what I heard, after some crazy situations were going on, even some members of the film crew die in a fire. He started to have a priest bless the set every time he would start the film. The cultural conversation around the film, which also encompassed its treatment of Catholicism and in the years since its apparent anti-feminism, helped it become the first horror film to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Picture, one of 10 for which it was nominated, and winning for Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Sound. So the conflicts that this film created actually contribute to him winning that Academy Award. So that's interesting. All right, so that is the celebrities that have Venus in Virgo, square Chiron, and Gemini. So let's get into some other celebrities that have Venus square Chiron, but in different signs. And I'm not going to get into their charts. I'm just going to pull them up and briefly discuss them. So Angelina Jolie has Venus in Cancer, square Chiron in Aries, and she did have some rocky relationships, and she accused Brad Pitt of being abusive. And this can point to her living in different areas. Like she has like a number of different homes, and that can produce conflicts with that. Also conflicts with her mother and her family name and all that. She did change her name from Voight to Jolie Pitt, or Voight, which was her father's name, to Jolie, which was her mother's name. Cameron Diaz, Venus in Cancer, square Chiron in Aries. So this can produce an issue with culture, nationality. She is Hispanic, and just hearing the last name Diaz, but she has she doesn't have classic Hispanic features. I'll say that can point to conflicts with that, and I don't think she's really been in stable relationships either, but I'm not really sure about her relationships. Judy Garland, Venus in Cancer, square Chiron in Aries. This makes me think of Judy's abusive mother. Mel B, Melanie Brown, one of the Spice Girls. So she has Venus in Cancer, square Chiron in Aries. So this can deal with some of the racial conflict that she experienced, but also the issues with her relationships. Makes me think of Eddie Murphy in particular, because he is an Aries and he wasn't trying to claim that child that he created with her. Sandra Bullock. So Sandra Bullock has Venus in Gemini, square Chiron in Pisces. So she was in a scandalous relationship with that husband of hers. I forgot what his name was, but he was basically wearing Nazi memorabilia or whatever you call it. And I remember there was a scandal about that. I don't know much about her relationships in general, though. George Michael. So George Michael, Venus in Gemini, square Chiron in Pisces. So he was caught up in a scandalous situation. If you remember, he was caught in a bathroom. I don't know if he was engaged in a sexual act or if he was soliciting a man in the bathroom for sex. I can't remember. Y'all can let me know in the comments if y'all remember this story. But that's like, the scandal that was in the media. And I'm sure he was really embarrassed by that. Courtney Love, Venus in Gemini, square Chiron in Pisces. That makes me think that she's not being honest about the situation involving Kurt Cobain's death, but this also points to her drug addiction as well. And lastly, we have Brooke Shields. And actually, I'll be doing a sponsored video on Brooke Shields really soon because one of my clients sponsored a video about her. So she has Venus in Gemini, square Chiron in Pisces, and she's been in scandalous situations from the time when she was a young girl. From at age 10, she was in Playboy magazine, butt-ass naked. But I'll save that for the video that I'll be doing on her. Stay tuned for that. And that basically concludes my video on Venus square Chiron. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you have Venus in Chiron? If so, if you have Venus square Chiron, if so, let me know in the comments, like some of your personal experiences with that square, because I'm really interested in Chiron aspects. Chiron is a fascinating asteroid, and it can produce a lot of harm, but also a lot of good as well. So please like, share, and subscribe. If you would like a reading, you could go to my website. The link is in the description section, and I'll be back with some more videos. Peace.